Hello, and thank you so much for joining me on my weekly update in the garden. So, on the same day that we had the frost and I harvested the last of my sweet potatoes, I also went through and took out all of my peppers. Not all of the hot peppers had turned to their orange or red color for maturity, so I am going to put these in the house and try to get them to ripen up. But I had a lot of green peppers left after the frost, and I just didn't want to tend to them anymore in the cold weather. I'm ready for a break from the larger scale gardening. So I just went through and pulled off as many peppers as I could from all of the plants and pulled them out. Unfortunately, wintering or overwintering peppers doesn't really work for me here in zone 6B, 7A. I tried it last year and only had mild success, and then ultimately ended up losing most of the overwintered peppers when we had an unexpected late frost in May. So I'm not going to overwinter any of the peppers this year. I'm just going to take them all out and focus on the plants that I do have indoors. I made the decision initially to leave the Tabasco in because they had a lot that looked like they were going to ripen. We'll see if this ends up being worth my time. Once I finished with the peppers, I moved over to the trellis. Despite having a couple of really cold nights and our first frost, the trellis was still trying to produce fruit and it was still pretty green. And these are the moments where I really don't like making gardening decisions because it was still looking pretty healthy. But I really don't want to garden outside in the cold. So ultimately, I did tear everything out on the trellis to just begin the prep for the garden beds to rest over the winter. And as I was pulling everything out, just as I had expected, nature always makes a way. And this plant was trying to produce another squash, but it's just not going to have enough time. In preparation for Thanksgiving, I'm going to dry some rosemary and sage in thyme. And this butternut squash was unexpected as well. I took it off the vine and hope that it will mature inside. Now, the last thing to come out of the garden is the horseradish. I started the horseradish on a whim and really off season from the time it should be planted. This is something that, just like garlic in my zone, should be overwintered, but I started it pretty late in the spring. I want to say I started it end of May, if not mid-May. And I knew I was starting it off season, but I still wanted to try it to see if I had gotten any harvest. I had read up on how to take care of horseradish, and pretty much it is also a set it and forget it type of plant. I also knew that it had a long growing time, so I wasn't expecting much of anything when it came time to harvest. It was just an experiment I wanted to do. One other thing that I read about horseradish is that when you plant your horseradish, wherever you want to plant it, it's going to be there forever because it spreads pretty quickly. It's invasive, almost like mint is invasive. So I put it in a container because I knew this wasn't the spot that I was going to leave it for next year. Even doing that, I ended up having the roots grow out of the holes that I drilled for drainage at the bottom of this barrel. And I found some roots in the cinder block that you could see right next to my leg. So this definitely spreads. If it's something that you want to have in your garden, wherever you put it, that is where it is going to be. Now, with all of my other containers and raised beds like this, I did have an issue where I found the soil to be kind of dead. There wasn't a lot of life or any bugs in it. The horseradish, though, definitely had life in the roots and soil. So I was happy that it wasn't like the other plants. And again, my expectations for a harvest from the horseradish were low. But even given that my expectation was low, finding this was a surprise because I didn't think I would have anything. I thought I was just going to have roots. So I did get 2 nice-sized pieces of horseradish. And then I am going to move this barrel. I really don't want it here. It wasn't allowing me to be able to walk around my trellis like I wanted to. So this horseradish is going to be moved to the back of the garden near my compost area. And what I'm doing right now is digging through and loosening up the soil and the roots. I'm just going to leave all of the roots in there. If I end up with a larger plant or a couple of plants for next year, I'll be happy with that. I only ended up putting back 1 horseradish root itself when I replanted the barrel. So if there's more that comes up, I'll welcome that. But I was really surprised at how quickly and how far out the roots on this horseradish stretched. I'm used to tomatoes and how their surface roots pretty much go everywhere, but I'd never seen roots this deep and this far reaching in any plant. Once I moved the barrel from where it was, there were a ton of feeder roots and all different types of roots from the horseradish just spread everywhere. So I expect that I'll have something come up in this area because right where the base of the wheelbarrow was, as you can see, I am just pulling up root after root, and I know I didn't get all of the roots, so I expect to see something. But that's the update. The outdoor garden is now all taken down. Thank you so much for sticking with me to the end. Please like and subscribe, and as always, thank you so much for watching.